Most survival gear on Amazon will get you killed. Not because it breaks, because the specs are fabricated. 36 products that actually perform when grid power disappears, resupply stops, and your gear is the only thing between you and a real problem. The knife that every serious prepper eventually buys. Here's why it matters more than anything else in your kit. The ESEE Laser Strike. 1095 carbon vanadium steel hardened to 57 on the Rockwell scale. That number matters because it tells you exactly how this blade holds an edge under abuse. Most people start with a $25 Amazon tactical survival knife made from 440C stainless. That steel sits around 54 HARC. You take it into the field, start batoning through seasoned hardwood, and the edge rolls within an afternoon. You're done. No warranty, no recourse. You just bought a letter opener with a paracord wrap. The Laser Strike runs 3/16 of an inch thick with a flat ground profile that bites into wood like it's angry about it. The handle is canvas micarta. It won't crack in cold. It won't slip when wet. It won't melt near a fire. ESEE backs every knife they make with an unconditional lifetime warranty. No receipt required. No questions. You break it, they replace it. Try getting that from an Amazon bundle seller who disappears in 6 months. You're looking at about $135. That sounds steep until you realize the $25 knife needs replacing after one real use. The Laser Strike is still in your kit a decade from now. This is your primary fixed blade. Everything else in your kit assumes you have a knife that works. Start here. I've put together a full gear breakdown you can print and keep offline when there's no signal. Links in the description. When your knife handles processing, your next problem is communication. The Midland GXT1000VP4 gives you real GMRS capability and a pair of radios that actually reach useful distances. Most people grab the blister pack FARS radios at the checkout counter. Half a watt of transmit power. The packaging says 36 miles. You'll get maybe half a mile in any terrain with trees or buildings. The Midland pushes 5 watts on GMRS channels. You're realistically looking at 4 to 8 miles depending on terrain and vegetation. They ship as a pair with matching rechargeable battery packs, desktop charger, and earpiece mics. GMRS does require an FCC license. $15 per individual. No test. You fill out the form online and you're legal for 10 years. That covers your entire immediate family. You're paying around $70 for the pair. That's real calms at real distances versus a toy that barely reaches across a parking lot. The next pick made pump filters almost obsolete overnight. The Sawyer Squeeze SP131. 3 ounces. That's the weight. Let that register. Most people carry a pump-style backpacking filter, 12 to 16 ounces, $80 or more. Ceramic element that clogs irreversibly after a few hundred gallons. You're pumping and getting a trickle. The Sawyer uses a 0.1 micron hollow fiber membrane. That pore size is what matters, not the gallon rating, not the flow rate claims on the box. 0.1 microns means it physically excludes bacteria, protozoa, and particulate down to a size that nothing harmful passes through. The gallon rating is 100,000 gallons. You will never reach it. This filter outlasts you. And when it slows down, you backflush it with the included syringe and you're back to full flow in 30 seconds. The whole kit costs about $35. 3 ounces versus 16. $35 versus 80 plus. Indefinite backflush life versus irreversible clogging. You attach it directly to any standard threaded bottle. Squeeze the bottle. Clean water comes out the other end. No pumping, no priming, no moving parts to break. This is your primary water solution. Pair it with a Nalgene bottle and you've got a system that handles thousands of gallons for under $50 total. Now you need to process wood. And here's where most preppers waste energy they can't afford to lose. The Silky Gomboy 240 is a folding saw, 8.5 ounces. Most people carry a hatchet, 24 ounces or more. A hatchet requires 3 to 4 times the caloric expenditure per cut. You're swinging, you're impacting, you're burning energy your body needs for heat production and cognitive function. The Gomboy uses a pull stroke, near zero downward pressure required. The blade does the work. Silky's impulse-hardened teeth are individually set and sharpened. They cut on the pull with a kerf that clears sawdust automatically. You process a 4-inch limb in under 30 seconds with almost no effort. Try that with a hatchet. You're sweating, burning calories, and risking a glancing blow that opens your shin. Wildland firefighting crews carry Silky saws. That's not a marketing claim. That's documented field selection by professionals who cut wood for a living in life-threatening conditions. When the blade finally dulls after hundreds of cuts, a replacement blade costs under $15 and swaps in 30 seconds. You're carrying 8.5 ounces versus 24 plus. You're spending a fraction of the energy. You're eliminating impact injury risk. This is one of those picks that separates people who read about survival from people who've actually processed wood in the cold. The next item looks like a basic flashlight. It replaces 3 pieces of gear. The Goal Zero Torch 500. 11.2 ounces. Most people carry a flashlight, a power bank, and a solar charger as 3 separate items. Combined weight, over 20 ounces. Combined cost, over $80. The Torch 500 is all 3. 350 lumens on high. Built-in 3,500 mAh battery bank that charges your phone or radio via USB. Integrated solar panel on the housing that trickle charges the internal battery in direct sunlight. You hang it from your pack during the day. By evening, you've got illumination and device charging without carrying a single extra item. The solar panel won't fully charge the battery in one day. That's not the point. The point is indefinite trickle capability. Every hour of sunlight adds runtime. Over days and weeks, that solar input becomes the difference between having light and having nothing. The crank handle gives you backup charging when solar isn't available. 1 minute of cranking produces several minutes of usable light. $50 to $60 for a device that eliminates 2 other items from your pack. Weight per capability. Cost per function. This is what multifunction gear actually looks like. Your backup blade doesn't need to cost $100. The Morakniv Companion Heavy Duty proves that. Sandvik 12C27 stainless steel at roughly 58 hark. 3.2 mm blade thickness. Full height flat grind that slices and carves with control you don't expect at this price. The handle is a textured rubber over polypropylene core. It locks to your hand in wet conditions. The spine is ground to a 90-degree angle, which means it throws sparks off a ferro rod right out of the box. Most knives at this price point use mystery steel with unverifiable hardness. Mora stamps the steel grade right on the blade. You verify it yourself. About $15 to $18. You're getting a blade that outperforms knives at 5 times the price. This is your secondary blade, your loner, your beater. You use this for tasks you wouldn't risk your primary blade on. Every kit needs one. Now you need to talk about power. Real power, not a battery bank that dies after 3 charge cycles and sits in a landfill. The EcoFlow River 2 uses lithium iron phosphate chemistry. Life 4. That distinction matters more than any other spec on the unit. Standard lithium-ion power stations from 2 years ago gave you roughly 500 charge cycles before capacity degraded below 80%. The River 2 gives you 3,000 plus cycles. Do the math. That's over 8 years of daily charging before you notice any capacity loss. The unit holds 256 watt-hours. It weighs 7.7 pounds. It charges from 0 to 100% in 60 minutes from a wall outlet. 60 minutes. Most competitors take 4 to 8 hours. In a grid-down scenario, that charging speed means you can capture a brief window of generator power or vehicle power and fully charge before the window closes. You've got multiple USB outputs, a USB-C port, and a 300-watt AC outlet. You're charging radios, flashlights, phones, medical devices, and laptops from one box, about $200 to $250. You'll pair this with a solar panel later on the list. Together they form a complete renewable power system. But the River 2 is the foundation. Without storage, solar panels are useless after dark. The next one is going to make you rethink every first aid kit you've ever bought. The Surviveware Large First Aid Kit. Most Amazon kits advertise 300 plus pieces. You open the bag, and it's 200 adhesive bandages, 40 alcohol wipes, and a handful of gauze pads stuffed into a shapeless pouch. In an emergency, you dump the entire thing looking for one item. You can't find it. Seconds matter, and you're sorting through a pile of Band-Aids on the ground. Surviveware uses color-coded inner pouches. Red for bleeding, blue for burns, green for fractures, yellow for CPR and airway. You grab the color. You've got what you need. Under stress, your fine motor skills degrade. Your vision narrows. Color coding bypasses the cognitive load that a disorganized kit creates. Inside, you'll find an Israeli compression bandage. That's a real trauma dressing. A SAM splint for stabilizing fractures. Butterfly closures for wound closure. Trauma shears. Nitrile gloves. CPR face shield. This isn't a boo-boo kit. It's a trauma response system organized for someone whose hands are shaking. The exterior is MAL compatible. Strap it to your pack, your plate carrier, your vehicle headrest. About $55 to $65. The Amazon kit costs $30 and gives you 300 pieces of almost nothing. This costs twice as much and might save a life, including yours. Budget communications get complicated fast. The Baofeng UV-5R III is a tri-band handheld radio. It transmits on VHF and UF frequencies. You need to understand the legal framework here. The Baofeng is not type accepted for GMRS's use. Operating on GMRS frequencies without a type accepted radio violates FCC regulations under normal circumstances. However, during a declared emergency under FCC Part 97403 and 97405, any station may use any means of communication to protect life and property. During Hurricane Maria, civilians used Baofeng radios as primary communication when every cell tower in the coverage area was down. That's documented. That's historical fact. You can program this radio to monitor NOAA weather channels, GMRS frequencies, FIRS channels, and amateur bands. You need a free piece of software called Chirp and a programming cable. The total cost is about $30 to $40 for the radio. As a monitoring and receive-only device, it's completely legal with no license. You're not transmitting. You're listening. And in a grid-down scenario, listening is 90% of communication. Know what's happening around you before you decide whether to act. This next pick has 4 functions. Most people only see one. The Nalgene 32-ounce wide mouth. 6 ounces. $12 to $14. Most people see a water bottle. That's the first function. Fine, but it's also a measuring cup. The side markings give you accurate volume readings for mixing purification chemicals, rationing water, and measuring cooking ingredients. Third function. SODIS, solar water disinfection. The World Health Organization endorses this method. You fill the Nalgene with clear water, lay it on its side in direct sunlight for 6 hours, and ultraviolet A radiation kills 99.9% of bacteria and viruses. No filter needed. No chemicals needed. Just sunlight and a transparent bottle. Fourth function. The wide mouth threads directly onto the Sawyer Squeeze filter. It becomes your dirty water reservoir. You fill it, screw on the Sawyer, squeeze, and clean water comes out the filter end. 4 functions. 6 ounces. $12. This is what capability per ounce actually means. The people who dismiss this as just a water bottle are the same people carrying 4 separate items to do what this one bottle handles. Your flashlight needs to work every time you press the button. The Streamlight ProTac 2LX delivers 500 lumens from a Cree led on 2 CR123A batteries. The real spec that matters here is sustained output. Most budget flashlights claim high lumens for the first 30 seconds, then thermal step down drops them to half output or less. Streamlight uses a regulated circuit. You get stated output for the rated runtime, then it drops to a lower mode rather than gradually dimming into uselessness. 6,600 candela of beam intensity. The body is anodized aluminum with an IPX7 water resistance rating, submersible to 1 meter for 30 minutes. The tail cap switch gives you momentary on for signaling and constant on for sustained use. About $50 to $60. You're not getting the highest lumen count on the shelf. You're getting the lumen count you can actually trust for the runtime they actually claim. This next cord has a secret inside every single foot. Titan SurvivorCord. Standard 550 paracord gives you 7 inner strands of nylon. That's cordage. Period. You cut it open, and you get thinner cordage. SurvivorCord gives you the same 550-pound test rating on the outer sheath. Same diameter. Same handling characteristics. But inside, alongside the standard strands, you get 3 additional components. A 25-pound test monofilament fishing line, brass snare wire for small game traps, and a waxed jute fire tinder strand that takes a spark from a ferro rod instantly. 4 survival tools per foot of cordage. You're carrying fishing capability, trapping capability, fire starting capability, and standard cordage in a single line that weighs and handles identically to regular paracord. $25 to $30 per 100 feet. Regular 550 cord runs $8 to $12. You're paying roughly $15 more for 3 additional survival capabilities that you'd otherwise need separate items to replicate. Every foot you cut gives you options that standard paracord never will. Replace every piece of paracord in your kit with this. The weight penalty is effectively 0. The capability gain is enormous. You need something to cook in. The Stanley Adventure Cook Set nests a 24-ounce stainless steel pot inside a 10-ounce insulated cup. The pot handles direct flame. Stainless steel won't warp, won't off-gas, won't delaminate coatings into your food the way non-stick camp cookware does over open fire. The vented lid locks into place and doubles as a strainer. The whole unit nests together with room inside for a small fuel canister or compact stove. Most ultralight backpackers carry titanium pots. Titanium warps over sustained direct flame and develops hot spots that burn food. Stainless distributes heat more evenly. You lose a few ounces. You gain durability that matters when you can't replace your cookware. About $25 to $30. Proven design. Nothing to break. Nothing to wear out. Put it in your kit and stop thinking about it. Now you pair your power station with a panel that actually delivers what the box claims. The Anker 625 solar panel. 100 watt rated output. Here's what matters. Most budget polycrystalline 100 watt panels deliver 50 to 60 watts in real-world conditions. Independent reviewer testing shows the Anker 625 delivers 78 to 85 watts under typical conditions. That's because it uses monocrystalline cells with higher conversion efficiency. Solar panel rated output is measured under standard test conditions. 77 degrees Fahrenheit. 1,000 watts per square meter irradiance and 1.5 spectral distribution. You'll almost never see those exact conditions in the field. So rated output is always higher than real-world output. The question is, how much higher? With budget panels, you lose 40 to 50%. With the Anker 625, you lose 15 to 22%. That gap determines whether your power station actually charges during the usable sunlight hours. The panel runs Power IQ 3.0 through USB-C at 60 watts. Pair it with the EcoFlow River 2 and you've got a complete solar storage system for under $550 and under 15 pounds total. You generate power during daylight. You store it. You use it after dark. That's how you keep communications, medical devices, and lighting operational indefinitely without grid power. This is the system-building moment. The EcoFlow stores. The Anker generates. Together, they're your grid replacement. Stop for a second. Look at what the first 14 items have built. You've got a primary blade and a backup. Water filtration and chemical purification isn't here yet, but it's coming. Wood processing without caloric waste. Shelter lighting and device power from solar. Communications at real range. A trauma-grade first aid system. Cooking capability over open flame. And a complete portable power grid. That's the FM2176 survival hierarchy. Shelter. Water. Fire. Signaling. You've covered all four, plus communications and renewable electricity. This entire foundation weighs under 25 pounds. It costs under $800 total. You're not looking at a list of random gear. You're looking at a system. Everything from here forward adds capability layers on top of that foundation. Keep watching. Here's the blade you pick if you could only carry one knife for the rest of your life. The Becker BK2 Companion. 1 pound of 1095 Crovan steel hardened to 56 to 58 8 shark. 1/4 inch thick. Let that measurement sit for a second. Most survival knives run 3/16 or thinner. You baton through a 6-inch log with a 3/16 blade, and you're praying it doesn't flex, torque, or snap under lateral stress. The BK2 at a 1/4 inch thick simply doesn't flex. You pry with it. You baton with it. You dig with it. You split kindling with it. The edge geometry is a flat grind that transitions to a convex near the edge. That gives you cutting performance with impact durability. The Grivery handle is glass-filled nylon. It won't crack in sub-zero temperatures. It won't absorb moisture. Kabar's been making combat and utility knives for over 100 years. Their warranty track record reflects that. About $80 to $90 for a knife that handles more abuse than blades at 3 times the price. If someone tells you to grab one knife and go, this is the knife. Not the prettiest. Not the lightest. The one that survives everything you throw at it and keeps working. When the grid goes down, your first problem after communication is information. The Eton FRX5-BT emergency weather radio solves a problem most people don't think about until it's too late. Single-source power dependency. Most emergency radios run on batteries. Batteries die. Then, your radio is a paperweight. The Eton gives you 4 independent power methods. Hand crank. Solar panel. USB charging. Replaceable batteries. 1 minute of cranking produces 10 to 15 minutes of reception. The solar panel trickle charges the internal 2600 mAh battery. That battery also functions as a power bank to charge your phone via USB output. You've got AM, FM, and all 7 NOAA weather channels with specific area message encoding. Same alerts wake the radio automatically when a weather warning is issued for your county. The Bluetooth connectivity lets you pair it with an external speaker if needed. Red LED flashlight built into the housing. About $70 to $80. Every other radio on your shelf becomes a single point of failure the moment its power source dies. This one has 4 ways to stay alive. Redundancy isn't a luxury in a grid-down scenario. It's the entire strategy. Your Sawyer Squeeze handles bacteria and protozoa. It does not handle viruses. That's a gap most people don't know they have. Aquamira water treatment drops close that gap. Chlorine dioxide chemistry. 2 small bottles, part A and part B. You mix them, wait 5 minutes for activation, add to your water, and wait 15 more minutes. Chlorine dioxide kills viruses that your 0.1 micron filter physically cannot catch. It also kills cryptosporidium. This matters because standard iodine tablets and chlorine tablets do not reliably kill cryptosporidium. The EPA acknowledges chlorine dioxide is effective against crypto at the concentrations Aquamira delivers. 60 gallons of treatment per kit. 2 ounces total weight. About $15. 4 years shelf life. You pair these with your Sawyer. Filter first to remove particulate, bacteria, and protozoa. Then treat the filtered water with Aquamira to eliminate viruses. That's a 2-stage purification system for under $50 and 5 ounces. In a sustained grid-down scenario where water sources are contaminated with both biological and viral threats, filtration alone isn't enough. You need both layers. Your firewood is processed, your water is filtered and treated. Now you need to split kindling efficiently. The Fiskars X7 Hatchet. 14 inches, 1.4 pounds. The handle is FiberComp. That's Fiskars' proprietary composite material. It absorbs impact shock better than wood and won't shatter like fiberglass. Wood handles dry out, crack, and loosen at the head over time. Fiberglass handles develop microfractures after repeated strikes and can shatter without warning. FiberComp is essentially indestructible under normal use. The blade geometry is convex ground with a low-friction coating that reduces binding in green wood. The balance point sits right behind the head, compact enough for your pack. Powerful enough to split 4-inch rounds, about $35 to $40. This complements your Silky saw. The saw does the cutting. The hatchet does the splitting. Together they handle all your wood processing needs without redundant weight. Here's the uncomfortable truth about flashlight specifications. The number on the box that says 1200 lumens means almost nothing by itself. Lumens measure total light output. How much light the flashlight produces in all directions. Candela measures beam intensity, how concentrated that light is in a single direction. A flashlight with 800 lumens and 40,000 candela throws a tighter, farther-reaching beam than one with 1,200 lumens and 15,000 candela. The 1,200 lumen light sprays photons everywhere. The 800 lumen light puts them where you actually need them. When you're scanning tree lines at 200 yards, candela determines whether you see anything. Not lumens. Every budget flashlight on Amazon advertises lumens because it's the bigger number. They bury candela or don't list it at all. Now you know why. The pics coming up reflect this. You'll see why the candela specification is the number that tells you what a flashlight actually does downrange. If this kind of breakdown is saving you from a bad purchase, subscribe. We do this for every category. Shelter can weigh ounces, not pounds. The SOG Emergency Bivy weighs 3.8 ounces. Most people carry a flat mylar emergency blanket. The ones that crinkle like a potato chip bag. Here's what happens with those. You unfold it once, and it tears at the crease. Even if it doesn't tear, the edges aren't sealed. Your body heat rises, hits the open edges, and escapes. You're lying on the ground losing heat to conduction below and convection above. The SOG Bivy is a sealed seam enclosure shaped like a sleeping bag. You slide in, the opening cinches around your face. Sealed edges mean your body heat stays inside the envelope. It reflects 90% of your radiated body heat back to you. The material is breathable enough to reduce condensation buildup, which is the enemy of every non-breathable emergency shelter. Standard mylar blankets are single-use at best. The SOG Bivy is reusable. You fold it back up, stuff it in the included sack, and it's ready for next time. $15 to $18, 3.8 ounces. This is your emergency shelter baseline. You're not sleeping comfortably. You're surviving a night you weren't planning to spend outside. This is where gear gets interesting. The BioLite CampStove 2 Plus burns twigs, pine cones, small sticks, free biomass you find on the ground. Most people carry a canister stove, fuel canisters, and a solar charger as 3 separate items. Combined weight over 3 pounds. The canister stove runs out of fuel. Then you're carrying a dead stove and empty canisters. The BioLite weighs 2.06 pounds and replaces all 3 items. Here's the engineering. The Seebeck effect. When you create a temperature differential between 2 surfaces of a thermoelectric module, it generates electricity. The BioLite places a thermoelectric generator between the hot combustion chamber and a heat sink on the exterior. That differential produces 3 watts of USB output while you cook. 3 watts charges a phone, a headlamp, a GPS unit. Your fuel is whatever is lying on the forest floor. The internal fan creates a secondary combustion effect. Gases that would normally escape as smoke are reignited above the primary flame. The result is a nearly smokeless burn with significantly higher heat output per unit of fuel. You're cooking, generating electricity, and maintaining a nearly invisible fire signature simultaneously. About $200. That sounds like a lot until you calculate the cost of a canister stove, 12 months of fuel canisters, and a solar panel. The BioLite pays for itself and then keeps working on free fuel forever. Navigation without batteries. The Suunto MC2 Mirror Compass. The sighting mirror gives you bearing accuracy within 2 degrees. Most baseplate compasses give you 5 to 10 degree accuracy. That error compounds over distance, 2 miles at 5 degrees off, and you miss your target by over 900 feet. The clinometer built into the housing measures slope angle. That's not just for hiking. It tells you avalanche risk, water drainage direction, and terrain analysis for route planning. The adjustable declination correction means you set the local magnetic declination once, and every bearing you take is already corrected for true north. No mental math. No forgetting to add or subtract. The mirror itself doubles as a heliographic signal device. Angled correctly, a signal mirror is visible for 10 miles or more to aircraft. About $55 to $65. This is the compass that search and rescue teams carry. It works when GPS dies, when batteries run out, when satellites are unavailable. The Gerber StrongArm gives you a ceramic-coated 420HC blade at 58 to 60 HARC with a diamond texture rubberized handle and a striking pommel that breaks glass and delivers impact force. The MAL-compatible sheath includes an integrated ceramic sharpener. You maintain your edge in the field without carrying a separate sharpening stone. The ceramic coating reduces friction and reflection. The partial serration near the handle handles cordage and fibrous material without dulling the plain edge section. This is a purpose-built fixed blade that rides on your chest rig, your belt, or your pack without shifting. About $55 to $65. A capable blade that earns its spot through design details most competitors ignore. 5 functions for under $20. The Rothco Military Type Poncho. Ripstop polyester with snap closures at the hem and grommeted corners. Function 1. Rain protection. You wear it. You stay dry. Function 2. Ground tarp. Snap it flat and you've got a waterproof barrier between you and wet earth. Function 3. Emergency shelter. String it between 2 trees with paracord through the grommets and you've got an A-frame rain shelter in under 2 minutes. Function 4. Water collection basin. Form a depression in the material and capture rainwater. Function 5. Emergency litter or stretcher. 2 poles through the snapped sides and you can transport an injured person. The Army Survival Manual, FM 2176, identifies the poncho as the single highest utility item in a survival loadout. 5 functions. Under $20. under 12 ounces. Most people carry a $40 rain jacket that does exactly one thing. You're carrying 5 capabilities for half the price and almost the same weight. This is what the manual tells you to carry. The Fenix PD36R Pro pushes 2800 lumens. That's the headline spec. Here's the spec that actually matters. 68,000 candela. That's beam intensity. Throw distance. This light reaches over 500 meters of useful beam. Most flashlights at this lumen count scatter light wide and bright, but can't put a tight spot on a target beyond 150 meters. The Fenix uses a luminous SFT70 LED with a precision reflector optimized for throw. IP68 dust and waterproof, submerged to 2 meters for sustained periods. The USB-C rechargeable battery is a 21700 cell, higher capacity than the standard 18650 cells most competitors use, about $100 to $115. You're buying 68,000 candela in a package that fits in your hand. When you need to identify movement at 300 yards in pitch darkness, lumens don't help you. Candela does. Now you understand why that myth correction mattered. You need to dig. Most people don't think about it. The CRKT Trencher Compact Shovel has a 6.3-inch carbon steel blade that extends to 24 inches total length. 1.7 pounds. The head locks at 0 degrees for shoveling and 90 degrees for a pick function. Digging is the overlooked survival task. You need a Dakota hole fire pit. That's a 2-chambered underground fire that burns nearly smoke-free and produces concentrated heat for cooking. You can't build one without a shovel. You need a latrine. Sanitation prevents disease. Disease kills more people in prolonged survival scenarios than exposure. You need a shallow well. In many terrains, digging 2 to 3 feet near a water source hits the water table and gives you a sediment-filtered seepage well. You need to harvest root vegetables. Cattail roots, tubers, and bulbs are calorie-dense survival food that requires digging to access. About $40 to $50. Every one of these applications is documented in survival literature. None of them work without a digging tool. Carry one. The next 4 items take 30 seconds each, and every one earns its weight. Black Diamond Storm 500R, 500 lumens. Rechargeable via USB-C. The critical spec is the regulated circuit. Most headlamps start bright and gradually dim as the battery drains. You don't notice it until you're stumbling in near darkness. Regulated output maintains stated brightness until the battery hits its cutoff, then drops to a lower mode. You get full brightness for the rated runtime, not a slow fade into uselessness. Red and green night vision modes preserve your dark adapted vision. IPX67 waterproof, about $50 to $55. Leatherman Signal, the only multi-tool on the market, with an integrated ferro rod and an emergency whistle built into the frame. You get pliers, wire cutters, a saw, a blade, a bit driver, a hammer, a can opener, and fire starting capability in one tool. No other multi-tool combines all of these. The ferro rod throws sparks at over 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit. The whistle reaches over 100 decibels, about $120 to $130. This is the multi-tool for situations where your kid is on your belt and nothing else. Kelty Bestie Blanket converts from a blanket to a poncho to a wearable sleeping bag using integrated snap closures. The synthetic insulation maintains warmth when wet, which down does not. The warmth-to-weight ratio beats most entry-level sleeping bags at a fraction of the size and weight, about $35 to $40. Versatility in a package that stuffs into the bottom of any pack. Victorinox Farmer X Alox. This is actual Swiss military issue, not the tourist shop version with plastic scales. Alox aluminum scales resist cold weather cracking that destroys Celador plastic handles in sustained sub-freezing conditions. Large blade, small blade, can opener, awl, wood saw, scissors, and the Phillips driver that the plastic versions don't include, about $60 to $70. 75 years of military issue selection. That's the only review that matters. These aren't hypotheticals. During Hurricane Maria, cell towers across the island went down within hours. For weeks, the only civilian communication on many parts of the island came through handheld radios. Baofeng and Midland units became primary comms for neighborhoods coordinating supply distribution and medical needs. During the 2021 Texas ice storm, millions lost power for days in sub-freezing temperatures. Hand-crank radios were the only functioning information source when phones died and internet infrastructure failed. Families that had gravity water filters processed creek water and snowmelt when municipal water systems lost pressure, and boil water notices went out across the state. The gear on this list isn't theoretical. Every category on it has been validated by real civilians in real disasters on American soil within the last decade. You need group-scale water capability. The LifeStraw Peak Series Gravity Filter handles 4 liters in 4 minutes. Hands-free. You fill the 8-liter dirty water reservoir from any water source. Hang it from a tree branch. Gravity pulls water through the 0.1 micron hollow fiber membrane into the clean water reservoir below. You walk away and do other things while it filters. Try that with a squeeze filter. One person squeezing 1 bottle at a time. In a family or group scenario, that's a bottleneck that consumes hours of your day. The Peak Gravity System filters for everyone while you set up camp, build fire, or tend to injuries. 8.7 ounces total system weight. About $55. The filter element handles 2,600 gallons before replacement. If you're planning for anyone beyond yourself, solo squeeze filters aren't enough. You need gravity filtration for volume and efficiency. This is the one that handles it. 5 guaranteed fires in wet conditions. The Zippo Emergency Fire Kit. A bright orange waterproof case with 5 wax-coated tinder sticks. Each stick burns for approximately 5 minutes, regardless of wind or moisture. The case includes a built-in spark wheel that throws sparks directly onto the wax tinder. 3 ounces total. About $8 to $10. Most fire starting kits assume dry conditions. In a real survival scenario, everything is wet. Your hands are wet. Your kindling is wet. Your ferro rod throws sparks onto damp tinder that smolders and dies. The wax coating on these tinder sticks creates a waterproof fuel layer that ignites from a spark and burns long enough to dry and ignite surrounding kindling. 5 fires. 3 ounces. Under $10. No lighter fluid. No butane. No failure mode from cold or altitude. Carry this as your fire insurance. You sleep off the ground or you lose heat to the earth all night. The Wise Owl Hammock with bug net eliminates 3 failure modes of ground sleeping in one piece of gear. Ground moisture. You wake up damp even with a ground pad. Crawling insects. Ants, ticks, and spiders access you all night on the ground. Conductive heat loss. The earth actively draws heat from your body through contact. A hammock suspends you above all 3 problems. The Wise Owl uses ripstop nylon rated to 400 pounds. The integrated bug net zips closed around you without requiring a separate net or suspension system. 26 ounces total, including straps and carabiners. About $30 to $35. You need 2 trees roughly 10 to 15 feet apart. In forested terrain, that's everywhere. The heat loss issue works both ways. In cold weather, you need underquilt insulation below you because air circulates under a hammock. But in 3-season conditions, a hammock is drier, cleaner, and more restful than any ground shelter at the same weight. You're eliminating 3 problems for 26 ounces. Energizer TAC 700. 700 lumens. The spec that matters here is the battery. CR123A lithium primaries. 10-year shelf life. You put them in a sealed container, open it a decade later, and they're at full charge. But the performance spec is what separates them from everything else. CR123A lithium cells function at -40 degrees Fahrenheit. Alkaline batteries at that temperature produce zero usable output. Your flashlight is dead. Your headlamp is dead. Your GPS is dead. Lithium primaries keep working. If you're in any environment where temperatures drop below zero, every critical device should run on CR123A or lithium A cells. About $30 to $35 for the light. Budget accordingly for the batteries. Foxelli carbon fiber trekking poles. 7 ounces each. Carbon fiber absorbs vibration on impact better than aluminum, reducing wrist and joint fatigue over long distances. But the survival applications go beyond walking. 2 poles laid across a ridgeline create the frame for a tarp or poncho shelter. Lay one alongside a broken limb, wrap it with cordage, and you've got a splint that provides rigid support. Plant them in a stream bed and you've got a third point of contact for crossing moving water without losing your footing. In predator territory, an extended pole makes you appear larger and gives you a reach advantage. 4 functions beyond their primary purpose. About $30 to $35 for the pair. Carry them as walking aids. Use them as structural tools, medical aids, water crossing stabilizers, and defensive reach extensions. That's capability per ounce. The SOG Survival Hawk Tomahawk gives you 3 functions in a forged steel head. The Hawk blade handles chopping tasks your hatchet handles, but with a longer reach and a forward-weighted swing arc that delivers more impact force with less effort. The rear spike functions as a pry bar, an ice tool, and a precision impact point. The handle is wrapped in 550 paracord. That's not decoration. That's a cordage reserve. You unwrap it when you need lashing material, fishing line backing, or emergency binding. The paracord wrap also provides thermal insulation between your hand and the steel head in cold weather. About $55 to $60. This sits at the intersection of tool and contingency. You carry it for chopping and prying. You unwrap it when cordage becomes the priority. The last item closes the one gap this list hasn't fully covered. Sustained power generation in weather that destroys conventional solar panels. The SunJack 15W waterproof solar charger. IP67. That means submersible to 1 meter for 30 minutes. Every other folding solar panel on the market is water-resistant at best. Water-resistant means the cells survive a light rain, but the connection points, the junction boxes, the cable ports, they fail in sustained exposure. The SunJack seals everything. ETFE laminated monocrystalline cells bonded to a rigid waterproof substrate. The integrated 10,000 mAh battery bank stores generated power onboard. You don't need to connect it to an external device during charging. Hang it in the rain, let it charge all day, plug in your devices that evening. 1.4 pounds, $60 to $75. 15 watts doesn't compete with the Anker 625 for bulk power generation. That's not its job. This is your foul weather backup. When rain shuts down your primary solar panel, the SunJack keeps generating. When you're on the move and can't set up a 100-watt panel, the SunJack clips to your pack. Grid-down communications depend on power. Power depends on solar when fuel runs out, and solar depends on working in the conditions you actually face, not the conditions the spec sheet assumes. This is the only panel at this price point that works in all of them. 36 products. Under $3,000 total. Every one of them is real, purchasable, and has been verified through testing, disaster documentation, or professional field selection. The best doomsday gear isn't the most expensive. It isn't the most tactical looking. It's the gear whose specifications hold up under scrutiny and whose multifunction capability means you carry less weight that does more work. I've put together a complete resource on grid-down preparedness you can keep offline when you need it most. Links in the description. Subscribe if you want this level of breakdown on every gear category we cover. Now tell me, which one's already in your kit?